The sky had not been blue for many years. It was always dark, always heavy, always filled with smoke from burning cities. On this broken planet, hope died slowly, piece by piece, until almost no one remembered what hope even felt like. Lyra, a young alien girl with silver eyes, stood on the edge of a ruined street and watched the thick clouds move above her head. Every day she asked the same question in her heart: would someone ever come to save them? Her people once believed in bright futures. They had schools, gardens, families, laughter, but the invaders destroyed everything. They walked through cities with fire and steel, leaving no home untouched. Most survivors lived underground, hiding like ghosts. Lyra hated hiding, but she was too small to fight and too young to run. She only watched and waited. Everyone whispered the same thing now: humanity is gone. Years had passed since the last human signal. The galaxy believed Earth had fallen, burned, or turned silent forever. If humans were truly gone, then no one would resist the invaders. Lyra heard these words every day, and each time, a little more light died inside her. On this day, the enemy army marched closer to the last shelter. Their metal beasts crushed the ground. Their soldiers shouted in their harsh, cold language. The entire world shook with fear. Lyra felt her heart getting tighter, like someone was squeezing it with invisible hands. She looked at the sky again. Nothing. No ships. No help. No humans. An old man beside her whispered, "This is the end." Another woman cried quietly, holding her child. Even the bravest warriors no longer spoke of victory. Lyra took a slow breath. The air tasted like ash. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. All she could think was one painful truth: our hope is gone. Then, something changed. At first, it was only a sound. A strange, distant rumble coming from above the clouds. People looked up, confused. The ground trembled softly, like a sleeping giant turning in its bed. Lyra's silver eyes widened. She had never heard anything like it. The invaders also noticed. Their soldiers stopped marching. Their weapons rose toward the sky. Their leaders spoke quickly, their voices sharp and nervous. They expected thunder or storms, but the sound kept growing deeper, stronger, more powerful. Lyra whispered, "What is that?" Then the clouds ripped open. A bright streak of fire cut through the sky, moving fast, too fast for any normal ship. Then another streak, and another. Soon the sky was full of falling lights like burning stars diving toward the planet. They were not natural. They were not meteors. They moved with purpose. They aimed for one place, the battlefield. The survivors gasped. Some fell to their knees. Some covered their children. Some cried again. But now the tears felt different, like something warm was returning to them. But the invaders panicked. Their commanders shouted orders. Their machines moved back. Their soldiers aimed upwards with fear in their eyes. Lyra had never seen the enemy afraid, not once. One of the invaders screamed a word she remembered hearing before, a word full of terror. A word many thought no longer existed. Humans. Lyra's breath stopped in her chest. Humans? Impossible. Impossible. Yet the sky was breaking open, and the falling stars grew brighter and brighter. The first impact hit the ground like thunder. A wave of dust exploded across the ruins. The earth cracked. Survivors shielded their faces. Lyra stumbled backward as heat rushed over her. Before she could understand anything, the second impact hit. Then the third, each one shaking the planet. Harder. When the dust finally settled, giant metal pods stood in the middle of the battlefield, glowing, smoking, and silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Everyone watched. The first pod hissed. Its metal shell split open. Steam poured out. A tall figure stepped out covered in dark armor, blue lights running across the plates like veins. The figure stood straight, calm, powerful. A human. A real human. Alive. Here. Now. The invaders froze. Their weapons shook. Their voices trembled. Lyra felt something inside her chest she had not felt in years. Something small. Something warm. Hope. The human warrior looked at the enemy army, then looked at the broken survivors hiding behind rubble. His voice carried across the entire battlefield, even through the smoke. Hope did not die. We came back. And at that moment, Lyra understood one thing: when all hope dies, that is exactly when humanity rises. For many years, the invaders ruled this world with confidence. They believed they were undefeatable, the strongest force in the galaxy. Their machines were enormous, their weapons brutal, and their soldiers trained to crush any resistance. When humanity went silent, the invaders celebrated across star systems. They declared themselves the true rulers of all life. They thought the war was over, but now as the glowing pods stood tall on the battlefield, their victory suddenly felt fragile. Commander Vorth, the invaders' highest officer on the planet, stared at the pods with narrowing eyes. His voice shook slightly as he shouted orders in his sharp language. Form lines. Aim at the pods. His soldiers obeyed quickly, but even they could not hide their fear. Their hands trembled. Their eyes darted between the sky and the ground. Because everyone knew one truth from ancient stories: if humans fall from the sky, someone is going to die. Lyra stayed behind a broken wall with her people, watching carefully. The survivors did not understand how humans had returned or how they survived all these years, but none of that mattered. What mattered was that something inside her heart, something buried for so long, was coming alive again. The first human stepped fully out of his pod. His armor was black and strong like stone, yet it moved like it had a life of its own. A soft blue glow ran across it, giving the impression of power hidden behind calm movements. He turned his head slowly, scanning the battlefield. Then a second human stepped out of another pod. Then a third. Soon, more armored figures appeared, each one standing tall, silent, dangerous. Commander Vorth tried to hide his fear. Fire! He shouted. The invaders obeyed. A storm of energy blasts fired across the field, hitting the pods, the ground, and the humans. Explosions shook the air. Dust clouds rose. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, afraid the humans were gone as quickly as they appeared. But the dust cleared. The humans still stood. Not a single one had fallen. Their armor shimmered lightly, absorbing the attacks like gentle rain. The invaders stepped back, shocked. One of the human warriors raised his weapon. It was long, sleek, and unlike anything Lyra had ever seen. Blue energy gathered around it. With one quiet motion he fired. A massive blast of blue light exploded forward, cutting a straight line through the enemy ranks. Machines fell. Soldiers flew into the air like broken dolls. The ground cracked open from the impact. Silence followed. Lyra's mouth fell open. The survivors held their breath. The invaders' confidence shattered instantly. The soldiers who once walked proudly now scrambled backward in fear. Vorth roared angrily, but even his voice betrayed panic. Regroup! Fight! They are only humans. But everyone knew the truth. Humans were never only anything. The humans began moving. Their steps were slow and heavy, each one echoing across the battlefield like thunder. Their glowing armor made them look less like soldiers and more like beings of pure power. They moved with discipline, never rushing, never panicking. One human raised his hand, signaling something. Suddenly, far above, the sky opened again. More streaks of fire appeared, dozens then hundreds. The invaders stared up in horror. More pods, more humans, more warriors falling like burning stars. Panic broke out. The enemy lines collapsed. Their machines turned and retreated. But one enormous mechanical beast stayed. It was a towering engine of war, covered in sharp armor plates, glowing with red energy lines. A war machine built to crush entire cities. It charged forward with a roar that shook the ground. Lyra gasped. No, they cannot fight that. The giant machine fired a massive red blast toward the humans. It was strong enough to wipe out an entire building. Lyra covered her eyes, but before the blast could land, one human soldier jumped. He jumped so high it looked impossible, like gravity no longer mattered. He landed on the machine's back, driving his glowing blade deep into its armor. Sparks flew everywhere. The machine screamed like a metal beast. The human ripped off panels, struck again and again, and within seconds, the massive war engine collapsed with a heavy crash. The battlefield fell silent. The invaders stared at the fallen machine in pure terror. If one human could destroy something so powerful, what could an entire army of them do? The humans stood together now, forming a line of shining armor. One human taller than the rest stepped forward. His voice was deep and carried across the entire field without effort. This world is under our protection. Lyra felt tears fill her eyes. She had lived so long with fear that she forgot what safety felt like. She whispered softly, "They came back. They really came back." The invaders looked broken, trembling, unsure what to do. They had celebrated too early. They believed humanity was gone. But now they understood the truth. Humans do not disappear. They wait. They prepare, and when hope dies, they return. The battlefield was silent now, but the silence felt different. It was not the silence of fear. It was the silence before something greater arrived. Lyra watched the shining armored humans standing in formation, their blue lights glowing softly through the smoke. They looked like they belonged to a different world, a stronger world, a world untouched by fear. But the truth was deeper than anything the survivors imagined. Far away, hidden from the galaxy, Earth had not fallen. Earth had changed. It had transformed. After the Great Silence began, when alien enemies attacked every corner of the galaxy, Earth understood something important. Humans could not win by fighting like everyone else. They had to evolve. They had to train harder, faster, deeper. They had to become something the galaxy had never seen before. So, humanity went silent on purpose. No messages, no signals, no signs of life. The galaxy believed Earth was dead. Earth wanted them to think that. While the universe relaxed, Earth rebuilt itself in the shadows. Entire continents became training grounds. Mountains turned into testing fields. Oceans hid giant factories. Humans prepared for the day they would return. Captain Rourke was one of the first soldiers trained in this new era. He was tall, his voice strong, his eyes sharp like a hawk. He believed deeply in one thing: humanity never abandons the weak. He trained for years in harsh storms, zero-gravity battles, desert survival, and deep ocean pressure. He became the kind of warrior old legends talked about. When Earth revealed a new technology, Armor Line X9, Rourke was chosen as its commander. The armor connected with the soldier's heartbeat, reacting to fear, strength, and courage. It allowed humans to fall from orbit without dying. It turned warriors into living meteors. It made humanity dangerous again. Now, standing on this broken world, Rourke looked across the field, watching the terrified invaders gather in small groups. He knew their fear was only beginning. One of his soldiers, Halle, stepped beside him. "Captain, the enemy is regrouping," Rourke nodded. "Let them gather. It will not help them." Lyra watched him, this calm giant in dark metal, feeling something strange. It was not fear. It was respect. A deep, strong respect that made her chest feel warm. Her people once feared humans because of old stories about their strength, but this was different. When Rourke looked at the survivors, his eyes softened. He saw them not as weak aliens, but as lives worth saving. He stepped toward the survivors. Lyra's heart raced. The armored giant kneeled down, removing his helmet. His face was rough, with sharp lines and tired eyes, but there was kindness in them. "You are safe now," Rook said quietly. Lyra's voice shook. "Humans, you were alive this whole time?" Rourke nodded slowly. "We never died. We only prepared." He looked at the sky. More fire streaks appeared, more humans falling like burning stars. Lyra watched in awe. "How many of you are coming?" she asked. Rourke smiled faintly. "Enough to finish this war." But the invaders were not ready to give up. On the far side of the battlefield, their machines rearranged. Hundreds formed a new line, weapons charged with red light. Their commander roared orders, trying to rebuild their courage. One enemy officer shouted, "Humans bleed like everyone else." Rourke heard it. He placed his helmet back on, the armor sealing with a soft click. "No," he whispered, "humans do not bleed like everyone else." He lifted his weapon, a long rifle with blue, glowing marks. The energy core hummed like a heartbeat. "Squad Alpha," he called. "Advance." His soldiers moved forward, their steps heavy and powerful. Every movement was precise. Every motion had purpose. Lyra watched from behind a broken wall as the humans walked into enemy fire. Red blasts hit their armor but did nothing. The humans kept moving, fast and steady. Then Rourke charged. He moved like a storm. One moment he was walking. The next he dashed forward with incredible speed. He leapt into the air, landed behind enemy lines, and sent shockwaves through the ground. His blade cut through machines like soft cloth. His rifle fired bright lines of blue energy, ripping through metal. His team followed. They moved like one mind, each human covering the other, each strike perfect, each reaction immediate. It was more like watching a dance than a battle, violent, beautiful, unbreakable. The invaders collapsed quickly, their ranks falling apart. Panic spread like wildfire. Machines exploded. Soldiers dropped their weapons and ran. Lyra felt her heart pounding. She whispered, "They fight like the stars themselves." Her mother, trembling, replied, "They fight like humans." When the last enemy soldier in that wave fell, Rourke turned around. His armor was scratched but still glowing. He looked at Lyra and the survivors again. "This is only the beginning. The enemy will bring more, stronger ones, but we will stand." "Lyra, step forward. Why? Why come for us?" Rourke's answer was simple. "Because when hope dies, someone must bring it back." He looked up as hundreds more falling stars crossed the sky, more warriors, more humans, more living meteors ready to end the darkness. For the first time in years, Lyra smiled. The stars were not falling. The humans were coming. The battlefield no longer looked like a battlefield. It looked like the edge of a storm, one created not by nature, but by humans. Smoke floated in the air like dark clouds. Sparks from burning metal glowed on the ground. The wind carried the sound of distant explosions. Yet in the middle of all this destruction, the humans stood calm, like the eye of the storm. Lyra leaned forward from behind a fallen stone pillar, watching Captain Rourke and his squad move across the field. She expected them to be loud, wild, full of rage. But they weren't. Their movements were controlled, focused, almost quiet. Every step they took had a purpose. Everything they did looked like it came from years of training. Rourke lifted his hand, signaling his team. The soldiers spread out, taking positions with perfect coordination. Their armor glowed brighter as they prepared for another attack. Lyra could see their faces through the helmet's clear visors, serious, confident, ready. Far across the field, the invaders began to gather again. Their machines rose from the dust, some damaged, some newly arrived. Their soldiers marched in lines, holding heavy weapons that hummed with red energy. They shouted orders, trying to rebuild courage after witnessing the humans' power, but fear was still in their eyes. Rourke observed them quietly. "They will throw everything at us now," he said. "Good," Holly replied. Let them try. The enemy commander roared, raising his massive weapon. Instantly, the invaders fired. A storm of red blasts filled the air, lighting the battlefield. Like a violent sunrise, Lyra held her breath. But as the blasts approached, the humans moved like lightning. Rourke dashed forward, his armor boosting his speed. Halle slid behind a ruined vehicle, firing precise blue shots that cut through enemy machines. Another soldier jumped, landing on a tall metal structure and firing down from above. Blue and red lights clashed in the air. Explosions shook the ground. Sparks burned holes in the dust clouds. Lyra watched, stunned. The humans were not just fighting, they were overwhelming the enemy with skill and strategy. They moved in complete harmony, like one mind controlling many bodies. The invaders, however, fought like a panicked animal, loud and messy. Rourke reached the front line first. His blade ignited, a long blade of blue energy humming with power. With one swing, he cut through a heavy armored vehicle as if it were paper. The machine fell in two pieces, glowing metal spilling across the ground. Behind him, Halle shot down a flying enemy drone, his rifle's blue energy strike turning it into falling debris. Another human soldier tackled an enemy giant, punching through. Its armor with raw strength amplified by the suit. The battlefield became a firestorm of blue light, humanity's light. Lyra's heart raced. She whispered, "They fight like they were born for this." Her mother nodded slowly, trembling. They were forged for this. Suddenly, an explosion shook the ground. A building collapsed near the survivors. Lyra screamed as she stumbled back, dust filling the air. She coughed and tried to see through the haze. A shadow moved toward her, a huge piece of debris, falling from above. Before it could hit her, two strong metallic arms grabbed her and pulled her away. She felt a cold rush of wind and the ground moving under her feet. She opened her eyes. It was Captain Rourke. He held her like she weighed nothing. His armor glowed faintly, still warm from battle. "You shouldn't be this close," he said. Lyra swallowed hard. "They would have killed me." Rourke set her down gently. "Not while we're here." Before she could thank him, a loud roar echoed across the field. A massive enemy mech, bigger than any machine seen before, rose from behind a burning structure. Its armor was black with glowing red lines pulsing like veins. Its eyes shined with deadly orange light. It stepped forward, each step shaking the ground. Rourke narrowed his eyes. New model. The mech fired a huge blast of red energy toward the humans. They scattered instantly, rolling, sliding, and jumping out of the way. The blast hit the ground behind them, sending a shockwave that threw dust and stones into the air. Halle shouted, "Captain, that thing can tear through our shields." Rourke stepped forward. "Not if we tear through it first." He sprinted toward the mech, dodging blasts, weaving between falling debris. His armor glowed brighter with each step. The mech aimed again, but Rourke leapt high, so high it looked impossible to Lyra. He landed on the mech's shoulder and drove his glowing blade straight into its core. Sparks erupted like fireworks. The mech roared, trying to shake him off, but Rourke held on with furious strength. 3 more humans joined him, stabbing, firing, tearing panels off the machine. The mech's light dimmed, its movement slowing. With one final strike, Rourke cut the main core. The mech collapsed. Quiet moment followed. Survivors began to cheer softly. Lyra stared at Rourke as he stepped down from the destroyed machine. "Humans," she whispered, voice shaking. "How can anyone stand against you?" Rourke looked at her with calm, steady eyes behind his visor. "They shouldn't," he said, "but they keep trying." Then he looked at the horizon. More enemy ships were arriving, more battles were coming. The firestorm had only begun. The battlefield had turned into a graveyard of broken machines and shattered metal. Smoke rose from burning wrecks, and the ground trembled from distant impacts. But in the middle of all this destruction stood something no one expected: hope. Not the soft, gentle hope from old stories, but a blazing, fierce hope that came from humanity's return. Lyra watched the sky, her heart racing. More streaks of fire crossed the clouds, more human pods falling like shining meteors. Dozens, then hundreds. She felt the ground shake with each new impact. Survivors gasped. Some fell to their knees. Some cried with relief. Her mother whispered, This is the return of the fallen. The warriors we thought were gone." Lyra nodded. "No, they never fell. The galaxy just forgot about them." As new pods cracked open, more armored humans emerged. Some wore heavy suits for direct combat. Some carried large shields. Some wore medic symbols glowing on their helmets. One team rushed toward the survivors, carrying medical kits and tools. A young human medic kneeling beside a wounded alien said, "You're safe. We're here to help." His voice was gentle, nothing like the harsh voices of the invaders. He wrapped bandages with careful hands. Another medic set up a small glowing device that repaired tissue. Survivors stared in disbelief. Humans healing them? Humans were supposed to be violent, dangerous, unpredictable, but these humans showed kindness. Lyra watched a group of human engineers repairing a broken shelter, lifting heavy beams with ease. Their armor hissed softly with effort. One of them scanned the ground and said, "Structural damage is fixable. We'll reinforce it." Her people had never seen anything like this. Humans were storms in battle, and builders in peace. But the enemy was not sleeping. On the far horizon, dark shapes moved, enemy reinforcements. Thousands of them. Their commander Vorth had escaped the earlier battle and now returned with a larger force. Massive war machines rolled across the land. Flying drones formed black swarms in the air. The sky darkened again, but this time with enemy ships. Lyra's heart tightened. More are coming. Rourke joined her side. His armor was scratched, but still shining. His visor lifted, revealing tired but sharp eyes. "Yes," he said, "they will send everything they have now." "Can you stop them?" Lyra asked quietly. Rourke looked at the horizon where the enemy army spread like a sea of metal and red lights. He did not lie, and he did not pretend to be invincible. Instead, he said something Lyra had never expected. "We do not need to stop them alone," he said, "because they made one mistake." "What mistake?" she asked. Rourke looked at her people, the survivors slowly rising to their feet as human medics healed them, as human engineers protected them, as human soldiers stood between them and death. "They made you believe you were weak," he said. "But humans don't protect the weak. We raise them." Lyra felt her chest warm. She didn't feel weak anymore. The enemy army moved closer, their machines spreading out in perfect formation. Their weapons glowed with dangerous red energy. Their drones buzzed like angry insects. Rourke turned to his soldiers. "Prepare defenses." In seconds, humans began building barriers, setting up shields, fortifying the land. Energy walls rose from portable generators. Automated turrets deployed with cold metallic clicks. Medics rushed survivors into safer positions. The rising thunder of enemy machines grew louder. Lyra noticed something strange. "Captain, the sky, it's changing." Rourke looked up. The clouds above them swirled, glowing faintly blue. The air vibrated. A deep hum echoed across the sky. The humans stopped moving for a moment, staring upward. Then it happened. A massive shadow descended from the clouds. A gigantic human ship, sleek, sharp, and glowing with blue energy, broke through the atmosphere. Its engines roared like a god waking up. It cast a huge shadow across the land, blocking out the sun. Survivors fell to the ground in awe. The enemy army froze. Even their machines hesitated. Rourke smiled softly. "Command ship Athena." They came. The huge ship opened its lower bay. Hundreds more armored humans jumped out. falling like glowing stars with blue trails. Lyra gasped. They're still coming? Rourke nodded. This is only the second wave. Fear rippled through the enemy ranks. Their commander Vorth roared angrily, trying to force his soldiers forward. But the humans were ready. The first wave of new warriors landed in the front line. Their boots cracked the ground. Their armor glowed brightly. Their weapons hummed with deep power. One of the new soldiers shouted, "Earth stands with you." The survivors cheered, but then the earth trembled violently. A deep rumble rose from underground. Cracks spread across the ground. Stones rolled. Buildings shook. Lyra stumbled. What's happening? Rourke grabbed his helmet. The enemy, they're activating something. A glowing red light burst from beneath the battlefield deep underground. The enemy had brought a new weapon. A devastating one. Rourke's voice grew hard. They're using a planet-breaker core. Lyra stared at him, terrified. What does that mean? Rourke looked directly into her eyes. It means if we don't stop it now, this world will be destroyed. The ground kept shaking, harder and harder, as if something enormous under the surface was waking up. Lyra grabbed the edge of a broken wall to steady herself. Dust rose from every direction. Survivors screamed. Even human soldiers paused for a moment, sensing the danger. Captain Rourke's voice cut through the panic. Everyone fall back. Medics, move the injured. Engineers, set shield walls now. His soldiers obeyed instantly, but Lyra only stared at the cracks spreading across the battlefield. Red light pulsed from deep underground, glowing brighter with every second. It was like the world itself had developed burning veins. Her mother whispered, frightened, "What is that?" Rourke answered without looking away, "A planet-breaker core." Lyra's blood ran cold. She had heard the stories, terrifying stories about weapons made by the invaders long ago. Machines designed not just to conquer worlds, but to destroy them completely. If activated, the core would tear the crust apart, ripping the entire planet from inside. How do we stop it? Lyra asked, trembling. Rourke placed his helmet on. The blue lights along his armor brightened. We go inside. Lyra's eyes widened. Inside where? The core is underground. Rourke pointed toward the ruins of an old fortress sitting on a cracked hill. Enemy banners hung from its broken towers, and black smoke poured from its vents. There, he said. Their base connects to the tunnels below. The core is hidden deep under it. Halle stepped beside him. Captain, enemy forces are gathering. Around the fortress. They're expecting us. Rourke's voice stayed firm. Good, we're going anyway. His squad prepared, checking weapons, activating armor boosters, syncing communication links. Every movement was sharp and confident. Yet Lyra could see the seriousness in their eyes. They knew what entering the fortress meant. A mission like this rarely had survivors. Rourke turned to Lyra suddenly. You know the tunnels, don't you? Lyra froze. Yes. My father worked in those tunnels before the war. Rourke nodded. Then guide us. Her mother stepped forward in fear. No, she's just a girl. Rourke kneeled down so he was eye level with Lyra. We need a path the enemy doesn't expect. Without your help, we may not reach the core in time. Lyra swallowed hard. Her legs felt weak, but something inside her, something human, sparked awake, kept her standing. I'll go, she said quietly. Her mother grabbed her hand, shaking. Lyra, please. Lyra squeezed her mother's fingers gently. If we don't stop it, we lose everything anyway. Rourke stood. We move now. The team formed around Lyra and sprinted toward the fortress. Enemy shots fired from towers. Red beams cut through the air. Humans shielded Lyra with their bodies, their armor absorbing deadly strikes with sparks and flashes. Rourke shot down several snipers while running. Halle threw a smoke charge. Thick blue mist burst upward, hiding their advance. They reached the base wall. Rourke blasted a hole using an energy grenade. Inside, he ordered. They entered a long metal hallway lit by red emergency lights. Sirens echoed. Enemy soldiers rushed toward them. Rourke's squad moved like a machine. Quick shots. Clean hits. Perfect coordination. Bodies fell, and the humans pushed deeper. Lyra guided them to an old maintenance hatch. Here, this drops into the lower tunnels. Rourke broke the lock. They climbed down a metal ladder into darkness lit only by glowing blue armor below them. The air was hot. Pipes rattled. The red glow of the planet-breaker core pulsed like a giant heart, beating faster and faster. Rourke touched his helmet. Athena Command, this is Ground Team 1. We have visual contact with the core. A voice crackled through. Captain, readings are unstable. You have 10 minutes at most. Before full detonation, Lyra gasped. 10 minutes? Rourke placed a hand on her shoulder. Stay behind us. No matter what, they ran deeper. The tunnel floor shook violently. Metal plates popped loose. A blast of red energy shot across the corridor, nearly hitting Hale. They've activated. Defenders. Hale shouted. Mechanical creatures crawled out from the wall, spider-like machines, with sharp limbs and glowing red eyes. They screeched and charged forward. Rourke swung his blade. Blue sparks flew. The creatures shattered under the force of his strikes. His squad fired rapidly, turning the tunnel into a storm of blue lights. Lyra covered her ears, terrified. Machines exploded around them. The heat from the core grew stronger with every step. Finally, they reached a massive chamber in the center. Of it, the planet-breaker core floated above the ground, held by dark energy beams. It pulsed violently, red light filling the room like blood. The ground cracked beneath it. The entire world groaned and shook. Hale cursed. That thing is seconds away from overload. Rourke stepped forward, his armor glowing brighter than ever. This ends now. He raised his weapon. Lyra's heart pounded. Would he make it in time? Would the world survive? Or would darkness take everything again? The answer was one breath away. The chamber felt like the center of a volcano. Heat pressed against Lyra's skin. The red light from the planet-breaker core pulsed faster and faster, like a dying heart beating out its final seconds. Loose stones rolled across the shaking floor. Pipes burst above their heads, spraying sparks and steam. The world was coming. Apart. Captain Rourke stood in front of the core, armor glowing brighter than Lyra had ever seen. His blue lights almost drowned out the red glow of the machine. His team formed a protective circle around him, weapons raised, ready for whatever the enemy tried next, except the enemy didn't attack. They waited. Commander Vorth appeared on a raised platform above the chamber, surrounded by armed guards. His voice echoed coldly, "You are too late, humans. The core is already beyond stabilizing. This world will fall. You will fall with it." Rourke didn't even look at him. His eyes stayed fixed on the pulsing core. "Maybe," he said. "But humanity doesn't run from fire." He stepped closer. The core pulsed violently, creating a shockwave that knocked Lyra to her knees. Hale pulled her up quickly. "Stay behind me," he shouted. Rourke raised his weapon, now glowing with deep, fierce blue light, and locked it into the core stabilizer. Slot. The machine screamed, metal grinding, energy crackling in every direction. Sparks rained down like burning snow. The ground heaved. Cracks spread across the chamber walls. Lyra grabbed Hale's arm, shaking. "Is he going to survive this?" Hale didn't answer. His silence was enough. Rourke braced himself as the core fought back, sending waves of red energy into his armor. His entire suit flickered, the blue glow dimming for a moment before surging brighter. "Captain!" one of his soldiers shouted. "Your armor can't take this load." Rourke shouted back through the rumbling air. "It doesn't have to. It only has to take it long enough." The core energy lashed out again, stronger. Rourke dropped to one knee. His armor sparked violently. Lyra felt tears rise in her eyes. This human, a stranger from a different world, was willing to destroy himself to save hers. She stepped forward without thinking. "Captain, you can't. You'll die." Holly grabbed her shoulders, pulling her back. "He knows. That's why he's the captain." Above them, Vorth laughed. Human bravery, always wasted. But he stopped laughing when the entire chamber shook with a new sound, a deep hum. A familiar one. Lyra looked up. The cracks in the ceiling widened. Dust fell in big chunks. And then blinding white light poured through the broken stone. A massive object descended from above, shaking the entire fortress. The chamber was filled with wind, dust, and roaring sound. The Athena. The giant human ship broke into the underground chamber with impossible strength. Its blue engines lit the entire core room. And for the first time, Commander Vorth stepped back in fear. Rourke's voice came through the radio inside his helmet. "Athena command." "You're right on time," a calm voice echoed from above. "Captain, disengage. We will handle the overload." Rourke's armor flickered. "No, you'll lose the entire lower deck." "Better a deck than a planet," the voice replied. Holly looked up toward the ship. "They're going to overload their own engines to counter the core." Lyra didn't fully understand, but she understood enough. The humans were about to risk their ship to save her world. Rourke finally stood, armor cracked, lights flickering. He removed his weapon from the stabilizer slot and stepped back. The glowing core pulsed wildly without restraint. "Athena," he said. "Fire." The giant ship unleashed a beam of pure blue energy, thick as a river, straight into the core. The chamber flooded with blue light. The core screamed, its red glow, fighting to survive. The two energies clashed, shaking the entire fortress, entire tunnels, entire world. The beam grew brighter. The red glow shrank. Then, a blinding explosion of blue light filled the chamber. Lyra felt herself lifted from the ground as Holly shielded her with his armor. A wave of force exploded outward, shaking everything. Red light vanished. The rumbling stopped. The heat disappeared. When she opened her eyes, the core was gone. Destroyed. Only faint blue dust fell through the air, like quiet snow. Captain Rourke stood breathing heavily. His armor cracked open in several places, but he was alive. His team rushed to him. Lyra broke free from Hale's arms and ran forward, tears streaming down her face. "You did it," she cried. "You saved us." Rourke removed his helmet. His face was pale, sweating, exhausted, but smiling. "No," he said softly. "We saved you." Above them, the Athena signaled all squads, all forces, enemy commander neutralized. Planet secure. Vorth was gone, crushed under falling debris when the explosion shook the platform. Human soldiers cheered. Survivors cried in relief. The world was safe. As they climbed out of the ruined fortress and into the sunlight, Lyra looked at the burning sky. Thousands of human pods still glowed like tiny stars. Rourke placed a hand on her shoulder. "Remember this day," he said. The day hope rose again. Lyra looked up, eyes shining. "Will you leave now?" Rourke shook his head. "Not until every invader is gone, and not until you can stand without fear." In the distance, more human ships broke through the clouds, strong, bright, unstoppable. The galaxy would remember this day, the day humans fell from the sky like stars and saved everything.